is falling out of favor, just as feudalism did those hundreds of years ago. So, what exactly is wrong with capitalism? This is the part where you may have to grit your teeth and sit through some things you don't want to hear. In America, we've gotten our self-identity so wrapped up in our economic system that we see capitalism and America as the same thing. Capitalism is our national identity, and therefore any criticism of capitalism is an attack on the nation itself. This should not be the case. An economic system is just one way to structure the monetary relations of a country. It's not a national culture. Capitalism is a tool which, in theory, should elevate the people of said country and materially improve their lives. Let's look at some examples of why this is no longer the case. We'll start with the most obvious problem: the massive discrepancy between worker and executive compensation and power. Your paycheck isn't actually based on how good a job you do. Not really. Your boss is in a position of power where he chooses which people to hire and which to fire. The people that work for him produce goods or services which then become his property, and which he then sells to make a profit. Your paycheck is, in reality, determined by your minimum needs and your boss's requirements for labor power in the relation to the number of people competing for jobs. The more people who are unemployed, that is, the more people who are looking for jobs, the easier it is for companies to hire desperate poor people for minimum wage. In this way, unemployment in society is actually beneficial for capitalists, and having a large reserve of people ready to step in and work for minimum wage means that the average employee is always living in fear of losing their job. If you make a fuss, if you complain, if you try to get a union involved, there is always someone to take your place. To the capitalist, you are expendable, just another cog in the machine, to be replaced at their convenience. It is in your boss's interest to make your paycheck as small as possible, while increasing the prices of goods and services. This maximizes profits for him, but forces you to tighten your belt. When your boss pays you crumbs compared to what you could be making and your landlord raises your rent, that leaves you with a lower quality of life and less financial mobility. This all works out beautifully for the owner class. Their profits increase year after year. There is, however, a flaw in this system. Well, besides the blatant disregard for human life. Unemployed and poorly paid workers don't make for a profitable market. When workers are paid so little that they can barely afford rent, how could we expect them to buy goods and services on the market? Companies produce more and more consumer products, but what happens when the consumers can no longer afford the very goods their labor produces? This creates a snowball effect. Low wages and precarity lead to an unprofitable market. An unprofitable market means that the production of consumer goods is limited, which inevitably leads to economic depression.
I think Second Thought does a very good job of breaking down basic Marxist fundamentals in a way where you will literally watch the entire fucking 26-minute video and not even recognize what he is describing to you is literally theory. Everything you are watching in this video is the rate of profit and its tendency to fall, whether it be like keeping the working class desperate for remuneration as a part of how capitalism operates. All of it is actually technically Marxist theory. What he's describing here.
Have you ever noticed how there seems to be an economic crisis like once every 10 years? Well, that's actually not by accident. These crises have been happening ever since the very beginning of capitalism. This upward and downward motion of the market is known as the business cycle. Boom and bust. Yo-yoing from one extreme to the other every decade or so. The boom comes from accumulation of wealth. When prices go up and wages go down, companies make money. But if the people are squeezed too hard and the market becomes unprofitable, it then leads to a depression, businesses close, people lose their jobs, debts aren't paid, banks collapse, governments run out of money. That's an economic crisis. And they're just gonna keep coming, even though every one of them will be dressed up as once in a lifetime and sure to never happen again. Just like we heard in 2008, and just like we heard during the Corona crash, which, not to be overly pessimistic, is only a teaser for what we'll see in the next couple years. Don't be fooled. Capitalism is unstable by its very nature. The system encourages greed, and because of this, capitalism will always shoot itself in the foot in the name of short-term gains over long-term stability. Just look at the financial crisis of 2008, the largest upward transfer of wealth in modern American history, until the COVID pandemic, of course. In short, the stock market crash was caused because predatory institutions became too greedy. They began offering unstable housing loans to people who would not have normally qualified. This led to millions of people taking on loans that would implode and that they would be unable to pay back. Housing prices went up, creating what's known as a speculative real estate bubble. And, as bubbles do, it burst, triggering the single largest single-day stock market drop in history up until that point. Millions of Americans lost their homes, their jobs, their healthcare, and many of them never recovered from the financial devastation. In the wake of the millions of evictions and foreclosures, huge corporate real estate firms and banks snapped up the empty houses at bargain bin prices, and many of them are held captive on the rental market to this day. In the end, the average American bore the brunt of the fallout, and the executives and capitalists behind the disaster got off scot-free. The housing crash is a huge, complicated topic, and I would encourage you to read more about it, but the most important thing to realize is that what should have been a completely avoidable catastrophe was inevitable because of our rabid devotion to ever-increasing profits. We've seen a similar occurrence since the beginning of the pandemic. The richest people in the country have increased their wealth at a staggering rate, while average Americans have again lost their livelihoods and their healthcare, which is a pretty bad thing to lose in the middle of a plague. But since providing our citizens with universal healthcare isn't profitable to insurance companies, our healthcare is tied to our employment. When we lose our job, we also lose our right to live in the eyes of our corporate overlords. To them, a human life has no value except what profits can be extracted from it. This isn't due to some inherent evil in every corporate executive. It's simply a byproduct of capitalism. Capitalists are very much conditioned into being cruel because cutting wages and other actions harmful to workers rewards them with greater profits, and giving their workers benefits like maternity leave punishes them with reduced profits. Even otherwise good people are affected by this. The problem isn't rich people as individuals, but capitalism as a system. Business owners learn to see everything in terms of revenue and expenditure. Taxes are an expense, rent is an expense, raw materials and machines are expenses, and that means labor is also seen as just another expense. Human beings are reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. That brings us to our next point. Capitalism doesn't care about human well-being. The primary concern of every nation should be the well-being of its citizens. But in modern hyper-capitalist countries, the only factor worth considering is the almighty dollar. Profit is the sole driver. Contrary to what we're taught about classical economics, capitalism does not follow the law of supply and demand. Housing is in huge demand, but it's not profitable to supply it, so people go homeless. As of 2019, the US had a homeless population of nearly 600,000 people. We also have over
We also don't even follow neoclassical economics and the models they build on supply and demand, especially on concepts such as, well, housing is one of them, but also on concepts such as healthcare, where there is inelastic demand. And because there is inelastic demand, i.e. demand that is irreplaceable and you have to have it if you want to fucking survive, there needs to be more regulation around it, because when there is inelastic demand, those who control the supply can literally fucking dictate whatever price it is, and people will fucking pay for it. But in America, we literally do not add any sort of price restrictions or regulations around it. As a matter of fact, we make it illegal to fucking collectively bargain or put price restrictions on pharma. And therefore go against the understanding that you learn in fucking Econ 101.
17 million vacant homes.
Why is supplying housing not profitable? Because it's about restricting shelter. That makes it. If there was more housing, I mean, it's not even the lack of housing in America. It's the fact that we have vacant homes that we just do not fill with human beings, because it is better to have vacant homes that people sit on with the hopes that inevitably their property value will increase so you can sell it off, rather than make sure that all of the houses that are empty have utility.
We could house nearly the entire population of the New York metro area. That's the nearby cities in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. But we won't house just 600,000 people because it's not profitable. We'd rather let...
Do you believe housing is a human right? Then why not forgive all housing there? Should we give free housing to everybody? Wait. Chunk yogurt? I'm confused. Are you saying that as though it's a bad thing if the government had the capability of doing so? Why would you be against that? Yeah. Why would you be against that, Chunk?
them die of exposure because, under capitalism, their lives have no inherent value. And remember, those homelessness and empty homes figures are from before the pandemic. We currently have somewhere in the ballpark of 50 million Americans facing eviction or foreclosure because of our toxic system's inability to handle crises like the COVID pandemic. This will never change unless we're able to move beyond capitalism and assert that, yes, humans do have innate value beyond what capitalists can extract from their labor. And of course, the problems at home pale in comparison to how wealthy capitalist nations treat the rest of the world, especially smaller or weaker nations that we can bully. Just about every instance of American foreign intervention in the last 70 years has been in the name of capital. Whether we're securing oil fields, deposing leaders who want to escape the stranglehold of imperial rule, or creating environments favorable to US corporations, we're not afraid to use our military to destabilize and destroy other nations and regions in order to make a quick buck. The Middle East is the most recent example. We've been meddling in the Middle East for decades. We entered Iraq under false pretenses, propagandizing the American population with false intelligence reports. The global community knew that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but it sure made for convenient cover to start a war that was unjustifiable otherwise. The tendrils of capitalism don't stop at the borders of our nation. They unjustly influence the daily lives of innocent people around the world. Not because America is necessarily evil and wants to kill people, but because our capitalist system demands it. There is no alternative if we want to maintain complete global supremacy. Okay, so what's the alternative? I know a lot of people are frustrated that videos like this don't often provide anything beyond criticism of the current system. I'll do my best to explain why socialism is a necessary next step. Under capitalism, your paycheck is made as small as possible. Unemployment is a positive for the ruling class. There being more empty homes than homeless people is simply a profitable housing market. Automation leaves people without jobs, and healthcare is a luxury rather than a human right. Socialism turns all those negatives on their head. Your paycheck is fairly scaled in accordance with the quality and quantity of your work. There's never a shortage of new jobs, homelessness can easily be eliminated, and automation allows people to spend their time pursuing their actual passions instead of toiling away in factories. The struggling artist who wanted to write symphonies but couldn't due to their financial situation will now be afforded the opportunity to pursue their aspirations. It's like the American dream, only real. The fundamental difference between capitalism and socialism is that capitalism puts the interest of the market before the interest of the people, and socialism is just the opposite. One of the most fundamental flaws of capitalism, including Scandinavian social democracy, although it may seem like a nice compromise between capitalism and socialism, is that capitalism and markets fundamentally rely on profit. Every year, a company's profit has to increase. Every year, a country's GDP has to increase. Forever and ever, for the rest of time, we always have to keep growing, keep expanding our economies, keep building new factories, keep producing more consumer goods. On an ever more finite Earth, infinite growth is a recipe for disaster. A disaster of which we're already seeing the beginnings. Not to mention the fact that we already produce more than we need. The issue of poverty or homelessness or starvation isn't that there's not enough to go around. The issue isn't scarcity, it's artificial scarcity. We produce plenty, but we don't distribute to those in need. Capitalism tells us that the market follows the law of supply and demand, that the market is simply the most efficient way of distributing goods to a large number of people. But if that was the case, then with our current level of production, we could give every human on the planet their own house, their own car.
There's also an efficiency in distribution under capitalism where, you know how whenever we're talking about healthcare, for example, we talk about how there is potentially what's stockpiling, or is it stockpiling? Is that how you say? Oh my God, my brain is not working. When it comes to medicine and when it comes to healthcare, we talk about how in hoarding, or not hoarding, rationing, not hoarding. Thank you, rationing. We talk about how there is rationing healthcare, right? And yet, in America, there's also a form of rationing healthcare, and that is rationing healthcare to those who can pay for it. And that exists in every aspect of our lives. Food is not distributed in an efficient way to those who need it the most, but instead it's distributed in a way where those who can pay for it will have access to it. What I mean by that is, at a time when there's scarcity, like actual scarcity, not artificial scarcity, the person who needs cancer medication for his cat that has the capacity to pay for it will be able to get that cancer medication for his cat before the person who needs the cancer medication for his parents that does not have the money to pay for it. So it's not necessarily the most efficient mode of distribution. It's just that efficiency is determined by who can pay for it.
Free access to education from kindergarten to university, and free universal healthcare. We could do that at any time, but we actively choose not to. Or rather, Jeff Bezos and his ultra-rich buddies actively choose not to. Jeff Bezos has the power to end world hunger on a whim. He wakes up every morning and makes the decision not to, if the thought even crosses his mind at all. The world collectively produces enough food to feed all of humanity. In fact, the world produces more than enough food. And yet, the number of people undernourished in the world has been on the rise since 2014, reaching an estimated 815 million in 2016. Rich countries not only have problems with obesity, but are also throwing away metric tons of food every day. Private corporations have deemed that food which cannot be sold, milk that's out of date, tomatoes that aren't red or shiny enough, bananas that aren't crooked enough, is to be thrown into dumpsters, and bleach is to...
Not all products have the same value, including housing capitalism sold out under a fair measure price. No one is saying that we're abolishing prices under socialism. It's communism, maybe, but there's still pricing. The difference is you can still have a higher valuation for houses by the fucking beach or some shit. You can still purchase houses as a part of your personal property. The difference is when you have private property, you end up creating a situation where there are 56,000 vacant homes in the greater metropolitan area in San Francisco, okay, in the Bay Area, with a fraction of that in homeless people, in the population of homeless people in that region alone. So that's the issue. The issue isn't necessarily that like some houses are going to cost more than other houses. The issue is when people can make money off of pre-existing capital that just sits there, and you can literally just sit and allow what you have invested money into to gain more value just by sitting there, and it's worth more to you. But the profit that you're potentially going to generate off of that, when it's not being utilized, in comparison to or not in comparison to, it's more profitable for you to sit on a house instead of renting it out, or more profitable for you to sit on a house and not use it rather than allow someone else to use it. Then you create a problem. That's the problem. How is it worth more sitting than renting it? Oh, well, let's say people don't have the money to rent it, okay?
Hassle.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be vacant properties in the Bay Area. Clearly, there are plenty of properties where people are just not using it and they're sitting on it. Some of that has to do with foreign capital. Wealthy people from foreign nations come in and purchase these properties. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's just more profitable for you to wait for the market to offer you a higher price when you inevitably sell it, if you don't have anyone to rent it out to. Is the long-term equity play, especially if the intent is to move cash out of China and purchase U.S. assets. Yeah. I have a friend in London whose house makes more per annum than he does working. Oh yeah, London real estate is fucking wonk too. Just look at Irvine, California, a whole city owned by a private company, and the owner is one of the richest dudes in the world. Half their rentals are empty, but the rent stays high as fuck. Yeah. And they can do that.
Colon 3.
Genuine question, isn't pricing by a market more efficient on the whole than something centrally controlled, at least a little more responsive to demand, actual conditions of consumers? I think there is centralized control in every aspect of markets. There has never been a fully free market. It's just a matter of how much centralized control you want to implement in that market. When we offer when we offer subsidies to public or not public housing, but it's like section housing developers, that's one form of centralized control to increase the supply of a necessary resource. Okay, I'm gonna run an ad right now. Top of the hour, every hour, 6-second ad break. I forgot to run it, so I'm running it right now, and we're gonna continue with the video. If you'd like to watch without any ad breaks, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5 or for free by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Here it is. A lot of young, rich Chinese people buy American property. Ontario people will let their shit sit vacant rather than renting lower during the pandemic, especially because tenant rent protections. Then landlord capitalists turn around and say that the protections are the problem with affordable housing. Free markets absolutely do price more efficiently, but the question is whether efficiency is worth the loss of quality of life. I mean, there also isn't really a free market, so I don't know what you mean by that. Where is there a free market? There's always going to be either price restrictions in some respect, whether it's taxes or whatnot, or subsidies on the other hand. Like, where is the free market?
Jammies.
Not a good argument? No, but why is it not a good argument? We've never really had a free market. And if we did have a free market, the same forces that prevail, that interest for maximizing profit, that would allow whatever the bigger fish is in that marketplace to suck up every other fucking small fish and eventually monopolize, would exist in all of those marketplaces. That's why in the United States of America, we have so much monopolization, because it's the closest to a fucking free market capitalist society as you can get. And even then, there's plenty of centralized control.
To be poured on top so that the hungry and homeless don't eat it. To not only deny food to the hungry when you have plenty, but to go out of your way to ensure that the hungry won't even eat your trash is a barbaric and inhumane practice. Under socialism, all workers would be allowed to reap what they sow and receive according to the value of the labor they put in, as well as democratically decide how the workplace is run. The workers are the ones who produce value.
Dr. Chess Gremlin, when are you doing P.O. Box next? I sent you something before I knew you hated PhDs. Shut the fuck up. Are you serious? Are you actually upset, Dr. Chess Gremlin? Because I know you fucking sent me a dono addressing your grievances. What do you want me to, like, throw it out? I sent you a gift before I fucking decided that you hate PhDs. Oh, he's just saying Omega lol. Okay, good. Son of a bitch.
They are the ones who should receive the benefits. CEOs and other corporate suits don't contribute to the value produced by the company, and yet they are paid hundreds of times more. For a worker to earn as much as a CEO earns in a single year, they would have to work 45 years. Socialism puts power, political, social, economic, and financial power, in the hands of the 99%, the proletariat, normal people. In such a system, people are paid in accordance with the quantity and quality of their work. Workers are entitled to reap what they sow, to actually benefit from their hard work. And isn't that what capitalists are always telling us? That hard work should pay off? Jeff Bezos makes $321 million a day. Someone who earns the federal minimum wage earns $58 a day. I do not believe that Jeff Bezos works 5.5 million times harder than the average minimum.
You're wrong. He does. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boss.
Wage worker. Frankly, I think the average person works far harder than Mr. Amazon. If you're interested in what real workplace democracy looks like, worker co-ops are a good place to start. They're not perfect, but they're a massive improvement on the average predatory company. I made a video on the subject that you can watch if you're interested. Now, as with any term that's been hijacked by bad faith actors, there's a veritable mountain of misconceptions that need to be addressed. Covering all of them would take hours, but let's take a look at a few of the more common ones. First, let's consider the misguided notion that free market policies make poor countries rich. I think this is best summed up by Ha-Joon Chang. author of 23 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism. He says, contrary to what is commonly believed, the performance of developing countries in the period of state-led development was superior to what they have achieved during the subsequent period of market-oriented reform. There were some spectacular failures of state intervention, but most of these countries grew much faster, with more equitable income distribution and far fewer financial crises during the bad old days than they have done in the period of market-oriented reforms. Moreover, it is also not true that almost all rich countries have become rich through free market policies. The truth is more or less the opposite. With only a few exceptions, all of today's rich countries—
The greatest example of this is literally China. Is China wealthier as a consequence of foreign capital and capitalism? Or is China wealthier as a consequence of, well, not wealthier, but like, or has China been able to escape the throes of pre-industrial poverty by growing across the board and redistributing the wealth generated better than, for example, the United States of America does now? You don't need to really look further than even the United States development itself. Obviously, it's two different factors there, but the United States' greatest leaps in industrialization came because of a war economy, but more importantly, higher degrees of socialization in the aftermath of the Great Depression. That those infrastructure, the great advances that we made in American infrastructure that we still take advantage of to this day is literally a consequence of post-Great Depression era policies.
including Britain and the US, the supposed homes of free trade and free market, have become rich through the combinations of protectionism, subsidies, and other policies that today they advise the developing countries not to adopt. Free market policies have made few countries rich so far and will make few rich in the future. 23 things they don't tell you about capitalism.
How does China socialize their economy if they have the most billionaires in the world? I don't know. Norway and Sweden have more billionaires per capita than the United States as well, but they seem to be doing all right with their robust social safety nets. So very clearly, you can have a social democracy and have more billionaires per capita than the United States. The United States is unique in its cruelty. Like, it's just the wealthiest nation on earth, the wealthiest nation to have ever existed throughout history, and yet it subjects its own workers to such horrific conditions. With respect to how the wealthy live, of course. Obviously not like horrific conditions in comparison to some worker in fucking Indonesia or something like that, but still. The existence of billionaires does imply, in my worldview, a significant and fundamental policy failure. A failure of the economic organization that we exist under. However, having said that, you can have billionaires and still have robust social safety nets, as evidenced by both China, to a certain degree, but certainly Norway and Sweden.
Capitalism is a great book for someone interested in ideas outside the scope of usual capitalist economic teachings, but who isn't sure where they stand.
Yeah, they have more billionaires, but American billionaires are richer, LMAO. Oh, never mind then. Sick, dude. Yeah, that's true. That is true. You're right. Even their billionaires are more socialized, I guess.
And yet, it's also not entirely antagonistic to the idea of capitalism. It's just willing to engage with the reality of modern neoliberal capitalism and its many problems. So even if you fancy yourself a capitalist, it's worth a read. I'll leave a link to check it out in the description below. Next, let's consider the myth of the American dream. Remember, criticizing an economic system is not an attack on the nation as a whole or its people. We just need to engage with certain realities of modern life under late-stage capitalism. When you hear the expression, the American dream, you probably picture a smiling family grilling in their backyard behind a white picket fence, probably 2 kids and a dog. It's a pleasant picture, one of stability, contentment, and fulfillment. By definition, the American dream declares life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement regardless of social class or circumstances of birth. There was a time when the average American could afford a home on a single salary, where we could afford to have children, or a new car, or pay our way through school on a part-time wage. Those days are long gone. There are some Americans still living who experienced that reality, and for them it's often difficult to understand why younger generations seem to have such a hard time when they were able to thrive. World War II catapulted the US to the top of the global power rankings. The post-war years afforded many white Americans the prosperity we associate with the image of the American dream. That period began over 70 years ago, and the following 20 or 30 years represented the high watermark for American prosperity. But, as was inevitable, the nature of capitalism began to work against normal people over the years. The average American's quality of life and ability to afford luxuries, and eventually necessities, has been on the decline since at least the Reagan years. In the past, a college degree
I wonder why. If only there was, like, I don't know, something that happened in the Reagan years, especially that accelerated the America's demise. I just can't really think of anything, though. Yeah, that's why Donald Trump is the second Reagan of the United States, which is why he will be remembered fondly by the Republicans. And 20 years down the line, if we are alive at that point, at that stage, we'll be remembered fondly by fucking dipshit Democrats too, who say, oh man, you know, I really hate that vampire pedo Hitler, who's successfully taken over the Republican Party and is now doing fascism, is making me remember the good old days of Donald Trump. If only we had someone who is a reasonable Republican like Donald Trump or Ronald Reagan instead of the vampire pedophile Hitler that is now in charge of the Republican Party.
all but guaranteed you a job that paid well enough to afford a home and support a family on a single income. Even those without college degrees could land a job with a smile and a firm handshake, and make far more adjusted for inflation than workers today could ever dream of. Today, a college degree means next to nothing. As of early 2020, the unemployment rate for new graduates exceeds that of the general population. Among those that are employed, 41% of them are working jobs that don't require a degree. I was one of those people. I graduated from a nice, expensive school thanks to the generosity of my parents, and I ended up selling cameras at Best Buy. The only reason I'm able to support myself now is because I got lucky and the YouTube algorithm picked up my channel one day. I now spend my time actively fighting that same algorithm as it tries to bury my content. Even with my difficulties on this awful platform, I'm still far better off than most of my friends working traditional jobs. My position is not unique. The only people I know who are able to achieve what could be considered a modern American dream are other YouTubers and people in non-traditional jobs. But that's not the American dream, is it? The American dream is supposed to be for all of us, not just a lucky few. If you accept a position in a typical American company...
Definitely not PhD students, that's for sure. Or doctors, if you will. There you go. I will call you doctors for the duration of this video.
You will not be able to live the life your grandparents did, or even your parents. Supporting a family on a single income is unfathomable. Paying for healthcare on the market is unfathomable. Even affording the bare essentials like food and rent is becoming a real challenge for millions of Americans. The American dream died a long time ago, long before most people watching this video were born. That's not to say we can't reignite that possibility, but we need to acknowledge that it doesn't exist now, and it will never be possible again under capitalism. Finally, let's tackle perhaps the biggest misconception of all. Socialism has never worked. This one comes up in every single conversation about capitalism. Whether you're
Vuvuzela, brother! Vuvuzela attack helicopter. Pinochet did nothing wrong. 100%. Ooh, I got him. Oh my God. Here, look at me. I'm throwing up the okay signs. Are you triggered? Are you triggered, libtard? Hell yeah! Socialism. Vuvuzela 100.
advocating for socialism or not, it's a knee-jerk bit of propaganda that most Americans have swallowed hook, line, and sinker. First, we need to realize that socialism, like any system, is a spectrum. You can implement socialist policies in capitalist countries, and vice versa. To say socialism has never worked is just as silly as saying capitalism has never worked. But let's look at a few specifics. We'll start with Bolivia. If you're an American, the most you've probably heard about Bolivia is that their former leader Evo Morales was some kind of horrible dictator. As usual, this is anti-left propaganda. Morales served as Bolivia's 65th president.
Look at how brown he is. The more indigenous you are, the more socialist you are, the more socialism you're doing. Everybody knows this. That's why BLM is a Marxist institution. What the fuck's this man? His name Evo?
I've been has sim for over 2 years.
Why isn't
now,
it
and
something
all I
good
got is
like
this old
Hank?
overused joke from 90s tourist
and its first indigenous president from 2006 to 2013. He was democratically elected and well-loved by the general population. He is not well-loved by the United States. Why? Because he's a socialist, and he tried to free Bolivia from US influence and the control of multinational corporations. During his terms, Morales worked to improve the lives of Bolivia's poor, more equally distribute national gas profits, and introduce programs to combat illiteracy, poverty, racism, and sexism. These strong socialist policies led to a period of notable economic growth, as well as a reduction in poverty. Morales is regarded by many, with the exception of the US, as a champion of democratic reforms, common sense policy, anti-imperialism, environmentalism, and genuine care for the poor and working families. He objectively improved the lives of his people. To the US, he's a big scary dictator. Then there's Burkina Faso under the leadership of Thomas Sankara. Sankara assumed office at 33, having led a popular movement to overthrow the dominance of French colonial power. As a Marxist revolutionary, Sankara was deeply concerned with the health and well-being of the people of Burkina Faso. Immediately upon taking office, he launched a massive campaign to feed, house, and provide medical care for the entire population. He followed this with a large-scale vaccination program to eliminate polio, meningitis, and measles, vaccinating 2.5 million
Classic leftist libtard, brother. Thomas Sankara, he was vaccinating everybody. I heard it!
People in a single week, earning the praise of the World Health Organization. As far as foreign policy was concerned, the Sankara administration
He was microchipping them!
Was staunchly anti-imperialist and focused on agrarian reform to prevent famine instead of relying on foreign aid. They prioritized strong education and planted over 10 million trees to stop desertification in environmentally threatened areas. Sankara appointed women to high government positions and encouraged them to work outside the home in an attempt to reform outdated patriarchal notions. He also had the integrity to lead by example, only accepting a military officer's salary and redirecting the presidential salary to an orphan fund. Thomas Sankara's socialist policies did more to improve the lives
Wow, it's a lot like Donald Trump. He doesn't take a single dime either. I gotta stop. Okay, sorry.
of his people in a few short years than most nations do in 100. Poverty was reduced. Hunger and famine were reduced. Preventable diseases were essentially eliminated. Education and literacy rates went through the roof. Environmental concerns were addressed, and imperialism's hold on the nation was diminished. What did Sankara get for his efforts? He was overthrown and murdered by French colonial sympathizers. There are so many examples of socialist policies being implemented with great success around the world, and for each of them, the story ends the same way: a coup, an assassination, a fabricated war, or American intervention. When people say socialism has never worked, what they should really say is capitalist powers have never allowed socialism to continue working. These socialist policies do work. They are incredibly popular with the general population of
I mean, again, one of the greatest examples is higher degrees of socialization has worked incredibly successfully in areas where there is no American imperialism. And when they are regarded as like European allies, for example, you get to freely implement whatever level or degree of socialization that you want to implement when you are not beholden to colonial powers that want to extract your natural resources. Then you get to nationalize your extraction industry, and you don't get fucking 9/11 like Chile did, or you don't get fucking you don't. What happened to Iran does not happen to Norway. What happened to Venezuela does not happen to Norway again.
each country in which they're implemented, and they always produce outcomes that put wealthy capitalist nations to shame, until, of course, we come in and destroy everything they've worked so hard to build. Why do we do it? Because the United States can't stand the thought of people getting a glimpse of what life could be like under a more progressive, humane, and common sense system.
No, that's not the reason. No, that's not the reason at all. It's because it's natural resource extraction and being the hegemonic global superpower. It's just money. Damn. Read some Lenin, lib. I say to second thought. Imperialism is a necessity under capitalism. You have to.
System. So
He's going to conspiracy theories with that take? It's not. It's not. It's literally, I mean, there is a fear of a good example, certainly, but the main reason is because The fear of a good example is less that and more Russian influence or the USSR influence overall, the influence of socialism. But the bigger reason is also just exploitation and extraction of natural resources.
Let's wrap this up. If you're an American, like I am, you live in the richest, most powerful nation in the history of the world. We have almost endless resources that could be used to solve any problem that we face. We could fund universal healthcare, which would even save us money.
That's only true for Scandinavia. The U.S. Directly interfered in Italy, causing terrorism with Operation Gladio. Yes, but comparing Gladio to an otherwise relatively powerful Western power, to comparing that level of involvement, which is still technically indirect in comparison to like fucking what happened in Iran or what happens in Iraq right now or Afghanistan right now, is silly. It's incredibly limited in its scope.
We could fund climate change mitigation measures. We could fund free higher education, better infrastructure, public transportation. We could end homelessness, build state-of-the-art schools, libraries, parks, and hospitals. We could ensure every American worker is compensated fairly.
Also, Italians are not white.
For their work. We could have the American dream. Instead, all that money goes to the military to fund intervention in other countries. It goes to tax breaks for corporations. It goes to bailing out criminal industries that destroy the planet and the lives of countless human beings. Marxism, socialism, communism, pick whichever scary word you want, they represent the rejection of our dystopian state of affairs. They stand for the expansion of human freedom, for the acknowledgement of universal rights, for kindness, decency, and care for the less fortunate. An America that embraced at least some of the tenets of Marxism would be a nation that didn't destroy the lives of innocent people the world over. It would be a nation that cared for its own, that addressed the material concerns of the many over the greedy demands of the few. It would be a nation that could truly lead the way into the future, a future that is bright, just, and righteous.
At least if America treated its citizens with more respect and dignity, then I guess it would be even grosser, like its actions against foreign powers would be even more gross, because then we would reap the rewards of our imperialism with an even, or at least more even distribution. And therefore, we would be enriching ourselves across the board while the rest of the world suffered. But because of the fact that America, or at least American corporations that take the benefits of our military-industrial complex or our foreign imperialist endeavors, are not distributed in an egalitarian capacity whatsoever, the American working class continues to suffer as well. You know. Are you going to watch the second part of my channel too? What's up, Azure Scapegoat? Maybe. I was going to move on to more fun stuff and then watch your video tomorrow. What is this? Republicans tell Biden to hang tight for 6 to 8 months and then they'll work with him. Biden thinks that's so good. He tells the press 6 to 8 months takes you the summer recess. When they return, the focus turns to midterms and legislative window is closed. Good Lord have mercy. Shut the fuck up. Biden says that 7 Senate Republicans, mostly senior, have called him tonight. He spoke to one of the most senior members who expressed a willingness to work in China on infrastructure. It's going to take 6 to 8 months, but GOP will work with him. You're going to be surprised. He's not a mark, dude. He's not. It's got to be deliberate. Biden's been in the Senate since 1972, and he's still a mark. Amazing. For those just tuning in or folks elected to the Senate in 1972 but not paying attention, the first 6 to 8 months is the window you have to get something done.
Any plans for 2021?
There's no fucking way. I cannot express how happy the past 2 days of streaming have made me. Why? Because I'm finally talking about politics again instead of playing Cyberpunk. There's no fucking way, dude. This has to be deliberate. Drama Monday, when? Here, send it to me. Yeah, no, you're right. It's obviously not the same level of involvement. Just pushing back on your allies can do whatever they want comment.
Hey, dude, happened 2.5 years.
They just have more leeway, or have had more leeway, especially if they're historically a colonial power and a Western power. Here's my rebuttal to that Marxist video you just played. Yeah, Azure scapegoat. Are you in here still, bitch? Hey, are you still in here? You fucking communist bitch. Here, watch this, dude. Hey, guess what? Oh, you guys made a cool video. You and Second Thought. Hey, watch out, dude. What's up?
Distribution of wealth in America. Here is the actual distribution of wealth in America.
Right here.
The poorest Americans don't even register. They're down to pocket change.
Venezuela.
Goes down a socialist path. Vladimir Stalin invented communism in 1956. These poor brainwashed fools want it. This is what will happen to your family under communism. Start a small business instead. Yeah, brought to you by the Woovazilla iPhone 100 Gorillion Dead Venezuela Foundation. Brought to you by the Victims of Communism Society in collaboration with the Woovazilla iPhone 100 million dead, 100 Gorillion dead. What the fuck? I'm literally shaking and crying. I'm pissing and shitting my pants right now. Why did I even watch a video about how great socialism could be potentially? Yeah, hey, let nobody tell you that I don't look at both sides of the argument. Okay?
Pogo.
This is the real centrism. Damn, just my whole family died by uttering the words communism.
Life, but at least I have Hassan.
Yeah, fucking watch out, dude. See? He's shocked. He's shocked because he has been outed. He's been outed for his advocacy. This video proves all the comments critics have warned about you. You just go and mock the right and put up strawman arguments like that, just like how you go and don't complete Dark Souls 3. The irony, of course, is like, this is literally not even a mockery.
Here is the actual distribution.
Like, this is not even a mockery of right-wing arguments. Like, that's the saddest part, is that, like, yeah, it exaggerates it a little bit. But how many times have you heard, well, said from your iPhone, look at Venezuela. Communism has never worked, and also, even if it did work, it's always failed.
Thanks for 4 months. Feel
Distribution
strong.
of wealth in America. The poorest Americans don't even register. They're down to pocket change.
Venezuela.
Think about it, dude. iPhone Venezuela 1 billion dead. Exactly. Never forget. Never forget. When people die under a socialist or communist distribution, I guess, or a socialist distribution of the organization of the economy, they die as a consequence of communism. But if they die under a capitalist organization of the economy, as they do now, like the 14 million that die annually directly as a consequence of famine and famine-related diseases, for example, well, those people, they couldn't find their fucking bootstraps. In a world where we have a surplus of food, okay? In a world where we have a surplus, too much food for us to even consume, those people that are dying, well, they're dying because they could not find their bootstraps. But 100 Gorillion people died under communism as a consequence of communism directly. Yeah. Both the second thought video and this one provide compelling arguments. Yes, this is precisely why I wanted to show you both sides. Karl Marx, the founder of the USSR, gave power to Joseph Lenin to eat 10,000 babies and kill a bazillion people. Yep. It's also a lie. The moon landing is real, but Yuri Gagarin never existed. Many people incorrectly believe that the USSR won the space race by arriving in space first, like putting a human in space first, but that's a lie. He never actually existed. The space doesn't even exist, really, actually. Fuck it. Space is not real. Yeah, the world is flat and space is fake. People don't know this, but you come to me for all the right takes and the truth. So, yeah. You obviously support rent forgiveness, then tell me how landlords and property owners are supposed to pay their mortgages, utilities, bills, and maintenance. I mean, my friend, it's a push and pull, you know? It's literally not possible. You libs don't understand ekvonymics. There you go, being racist again. Mocking white southern accents. Literal racism. You never do a black accent. Why? I do like a Nigerian accent from time to time. I don't know why, like... I'm scared for my life. What does Trump recognizing Western Sahara mean for my country of Algeria? I don't know. AOC is dumb as a rock. Her opinion is meaningless. Stop obsessing over her dumb as a rock opinions. Funny how libs assess and argue over AOC's dumb as a rock, by the way. Opinion shows your lack of intelligence and are all probably dumber than her. Ironic that you call every Trump supporter a racist, but you're the literal racist calling the blacks who support Trump self-hating white supremacists. You literally make everything about race because you're the racist one. Do you have any self-awareness? I love this one. He is steadily providing so much delicious content. How am I going to ban this guy? Because BLM is a literal terrorist organization, killed police, burned buildings, and has caused death and destruction of many. You fucking greasy turkey. What? Why does he keep coming back? I don't know. I think he likes the attention. I mean, it's obviously a sock, right? Every pale-faced reprobate that says the blacks reserves to get mollywopped. It was his birthday last week. Aw, chunk yogurt. Happy birthday, brother. Pet the chud, pet the chud. I wonder how he feels being the pet of a leftist community where we entertain his existence exclusively because it's hilarious. Like when he says stuff, it's hilarious. Oh, here, let's watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, the dream is over. Just last night, the Minecraft speedrunning sensation Dream Minecraft channel was exposed for cheating in his Minecraft speedruns. This news comes as a huge shock to the Minecraft community. Fans are absolutely devastated. People are tearing up their Dream posters. Small children are returning their Dream Funko Pops back to Target. It truly is a horrific time to be a Minecraft fan. The first thing you need to understand about Minecraft speedruns is that the top level speedruns are heavily RNG reliant. The people with the fastest times are very skilled players who also get extremely lucky. Enter Dream Minecraft channel. This year he has erupted in popularity.
What is this? So here's the thing I don't understand. Okay, first of all, congratulations to everybody who hit fucking 14 minutes. Like that's ridiculous. Good job. Okay, good job. Fucking random.
Lucky.
Oh shit, that's Twitch streamer Vaticus, right? Good for him.
Enter Dream.
How does anybody know this is what Dream looks like? Doesn't nobody know? I thought no one knew what he looked like. So they're just like making it up? Wait, he's shown his face before? He has? He's a pasty average white guy? I've seen him IRL. That's what he looks like?
Minecraft channel. This year he has erupted in popularity. He went from 300 views a month to being one of the largest channels on YouTube, period. How can this be explained? A lot of kids were trapped inside this year because of the virus. For some reason, kids found out what a speedrun is. This guy is very good at Minecraft and is playing with famous streamers, and then he starts uploading these elaborate speedruns to his channel, and kids go insane over them. It's a case of someone catching that lightning in a bottle spotlight and capitalizing on it for all it's worth. Whatever your feelings are on this guy, he is undeniably insanely lucky. So, using child...
Dude, this is so horny. Yo, Corpse fans are the horniest motherfuckers on the planet, dude. Y'all are horny over a voice. I mean, look, he's nice. Like, I enjoy playing with him. But goddamn, dude, you guys are so fucking horny, dude. Oh, I bet he's so fucking hot. I'm sure he's a good-looking guy, but fuck, man.
Logic. It only makes sense that this guy, who is insanely lucky, is also the best player at a luck-based game like Minecraft. He has the Minecraft magic. Diamonds just fall in his lap and he can do no wrong. So this guy, Dream, is 21 years old, his friends are 17-year-old streamers, and the kids watching him are probably 6 to 9 years old. All the children watching...
Wait, what the fuck? Really? No way, right? Wait, what? People that like Minecraft aren't like 6. They're probably like fucking 12, right?
Are having a blast watching these wacky speedruns, and then Dream starts going on a power trip. He goes, alright, I'm the biggest and best speedrunner of all time now. I got 14 million subscribers, so I'm gonna make this official and submit my time to speedrun.com. And then something terrible happens. These horrible, horrible people called adults start getting involved. Now, what sucks about adults is that these people are extremely cynical and hard to please. They pick apart and criticize everything, whereas kids, they just love anything for no reason at all. So the moderators at speedrun.com, these dweebs, these nerds,
yeah, fuck them,
they look
dude.
at Dream's speedrun submission.
Yeah, fuck them. I'm fucking mad, dude. How dare they? Fuck. My favorite YouTuber! Fuck!
And they go, well, according to my calculations, this speedrunner is a fucking cheating rap bastard little bitch. Apparently, when Dream was trading doubloons with the pig people in hell, he had modded his Minecraft to give him much better odds of receiving the rare material.
Okay,
Minecraft
no cap. Yeah, I bet the
Stop
fucking
crying
Minecraft speedrun dudes probably do have fucking PhDs, though.
From the pigs. Then he also had another mod running that increased his blaze rod.
I bet Dream didn't call him doctor. That's why they got fucking bent. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna fucking own you with binomial distribution, bitch!
Drop chance.
Welcome to math, bitch!
Yesterday, one of the moderators uploads a video called Did Dream Fake His Speedrun? This video is very convincing, and it also comes with this huge document file explaining the different mathematical equations involved in calculating the different probabilities. The moderators analyzed 6 of his speedruns and ultimately concluded that in order for Dream to be this lucky, this many times in a row, that there was only a 1 in 7.5 trillion chance of his speedrun being legitimate. In response, Dream said the moderators were nitpicking and biased. Personally, I have done hundreds of Minecraft speedruns, and what was most important to me when I was doing these is that I never wanted to cheat, and I never did. And this is something Dream never understood about Minecraft. The true drama of this situation lies in the rift between Dream's teenage fans and his target demographic. The teens are going, oh my god, I feel so betrayed, I can't believe Dream cheated, and the little kids are going, no, no, no. You poo-poo head. Most of these children probably don't know how to add or subtract yet, so when you come in here showing them this and start talking
Dude, they're getting younger, dude.
about statistics,
Most of the kids are like, goo goo gaga, motherfucker.
probabilities, it's not really going
Hey,
to
yo,
connect.
I'm a fucking baby, dude. I'm literally a baby, dude.
When you're going for the gold, you need nerves of steel and the sands of time on your side. You need to be creative in order to survive. Dream was at the top of the mountain, but he got tunnel vision and he ended up becoming a creeper by undermining his fellow speedrunners. I remember when Dream first started out on YouTube last month. He was my idol and my hero, but now that I learned he cheated, I can never look at him the same. Dream, you may have gotten the money and the fame, but in the end, it cost you your soul, and you lost your biggest fan of all,
Let's go.
me. Ladies and gentlemen, the dream is over, and the nightmare begins.
Wow. That's a really good drama Monday, dude. That's solid. That's solid drama. So are we doing Donkey's over party or what, dude? He's fucking bullshit, dude. Someone cancel